Giotto's accomplishment constitutes the greatest single defining moment in the history of art, the definition of what would become the Western aesthetic, which still challenges us to this day, was laid out in Giotto. Even trace elements of abstract expressionism can be seen in this lamentation by Giotto. If we define the core ideas of abstract expressionism as gesture, muscular movement, and expressive emotion, we can see those core elements just by looking at the angels, in the movement of their wings, in the way their robes seem to blur as they fly through the air, in the ghastly expression of agony on their faces as they perceive the death of Jesus Christ. Giotto's sense of drama, his sense of real human interaction, and his sense of physical space has no precedent in two-dimensional art. Its only precedent, perhaps, can be seen as Hellenistic sculpture. Giotto sculpts the hills. He renders volumes dimensionally. He feels the weight of his figures and their position in space and arranges them that way in the picture plane. The narrative Giotto creates includes even inanimate objects, even the background scenery. The withered tree silhouetted against the sky in the background is the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, which tempted Adam towards the first sin. Descending down the slope from the event of original sin, we follow a long diagonal that leads us directly to the body of Christ, whose sacrifice was a redemption of Adam's original sin. St. John the Evangelist appears in a red cloak, a device of his of special significance. His visionary gospels, including Revelation, were considered a type of spiritual medicine which purified the soul. John the Evangelist, therefore, was called the doctor of the Spirit, and in Renaissance times, doctors wore red robes. Whenever we see a red-robed figure close to Christ, we know that it's St. John the Evangelist, the soul's doctor. He throws his arms out dramatically in a profound gesture of grief, and we understand within Giotto's brilliantly composed picture plane that he has the room and the space to do it. This is a solid figure with the ability to move, not a flattened form pressed up against a golden Byzantine screen. It is often difficult to understand the radical nature of some of these innovations, which are things that we wouldn't even notice today. For instance, the two seated figures which bracket literally the body of Christ and give us a separate, smaller visual area for contemplating the incredible grief of Christ's death. Those two figures, their backs are facing away from the picture plane. Now, it's something that we don't even notice with our modern eyes at first, but when you consider the art that had come before Giotto, this is perhaps the most radical of his innovations, depicting figures without showing their faces. These figures are literally part of the landscape and treated as objects. They could have been stones. All they do is create a second, smaller visual field in which the impact of the grief of Christ's death can truly be felt and truly expand. Mary Magdalene holds Jesus' feet, and you can see, if you look at her face, her expression of awe and love for Jesus and the power that she must have felt at having her sinful life redeemed by His grace. You see nothing but affection and sorrow welling up in her eyes. The most powerful moment in the painting is the centerpiece of that narrow space defined by the two figures with their backs turned towards the picture plane. And this is the image of Mary cradling Jesus in her arms. We see a truly believable demonstration of a mother's love for her son. And we see the incredible grief on her face, and in microscopic detail you can even see tears in her eyes. Now she's staring directly into Jesus' eyes, and their faces are no more than a couple of inches apart. You get the idea that this is not Jesus' lifeless body, but this is the moment that Jesus dies. He is taken down from the cross, and there is a brief spark of life left in his eyes, and Mary is watching those eyes grow dark. It's a beautiful moment and a savagely cruel moment that could only have come from Giotto and could never have been expressed in the flat gold Byzantine style that came before him. The only place to see this kind of drama of human interaction and solidity of space before Giotto is in Hellenistic sculpture. And one can perhaps, in reference to this lamentation, look back at that masterpiece of Hellenistic sculpture, the Dying Gaul, who we have no idea who sculpted it. But we can see that Giotto may have learned something from sculpture and intuited that the issues of sculpture could be transferred into painting. But this thin idea doesn't explain the profundity of his innovation. His work was truly radical for its time, and it is the best place to begin Western art. Giotto introduced ideas that every artist today is still navigating their way through.